Welcome, everyone. I'm Charles Kennedy. Thanks for listening. And today I'm sitting down with Tym Moss, very interesting guy, an actor who I've worked with here in New York. And Tim, you've actually got a bunch of things going on. If you want to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Charles. It is so good to see you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just saying. I don't think we've seen each other since my birthday. You came to my birthday party. And...
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was a
fun
good time.
times. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got quite a few things going on. My new single and music video, "Buy and Obey," was just released recently. It's on YouTube. So go to Tym Moss, which is TYM. MOSS. Buy and Obey. I'm also doing a show called Two Queers and a Bitch that we're taking out around the country. So if you see us advertised in your area, be sure to come out and see me.
Awesome. Great. And it's always interesting talking to you because you have a lot of opinions. You've lived in New York for a long time.
Yeah.
We have tomorrow both of the candidates for president are going to be here in New York.
Right?
They're both New Yorkers. They're going to be having their various final rallies here in New York.
Yeah, and they both decided here in Manhattan.
Yeah,
so do not drive tomorrow. Don't even attempt it.
Yeah. So our first question is, now you've been involved in activism in New York, or also with the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat, what would you say? Which candidate would you say is going to be the best for the LGBT community and their rights that are up for election tomorrow?
Well, given our choice, I would say Hillary, most definitely. Forget Trump. I don't care what he says. You can't believe a damn word he says. You never could, and you never will. But yeah, Hillary has finally moved over to the side of the LGBT community. I mean, it might have taken her longer than many of us wanted, but she's here, so that's fine.
Yeah, do you find, what sort of, do you have any frustration that she didn't do it sooner, or that she seemed to do it only when it became safe, or does that not really bother you?
It doesn't bother me now as much as it did, but you're absolutely right. She waited until it was safe to join the camp and to move over, which is very typical Hillary. It's kind of like whatever, she's afraid she's going to lose people or lose votes or something, so she'll go with whatever seems to be popular at the time. But it did take her quite a while to come around, but she did, and that's fine, and that's good. So she's here now, fine.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own journey, and to fulfill.
Yeah.
So
that is true. Yeah. Do you think? Why do you think public opinion has changed so much when it comes to gay marriage and things like that? It seems like relatively recently. What do you think were the main factors that moved things?
Well, it's something, firstly, that affects everybody, whether they want to admit it or not. They have a coworker, a son, a child, a parent, an aunt, an uncle, somebody that's LGBT. It has affected everybody in across America. And it was never really talked about, never really supported in the American fabric of our society, and until recently, when I'm kind of fortunate that I have experienced all of the changes from in the late 70s to early 80s. When I first came out, it was totally underground. I grew up in the Midwest, so it wasn't even spoken about. I didn't know anybody that was gay. I didn't know it even existed. And then when I found out that it was that there were others that felt and thought the way I did, it was always in the seedy part of town, and that was kind of the identity I took on, was that we're sleazy and we should be hidden and we didn't belong in society. And then we came out and we're here, we're queer, get used to it type of movement. And that's when people started realizing, well, I do have a relative or someone close to me is gay, and the more that our authenticity started to show. Until it finally got to a point where it really surprised me that marriage equality passed on a federal level as quickly as it did, to where now it's not commonplace yet, but I've seen signs, especially in the younger generation, that are coming on where it's no big deal. They'll walk down the street holding hands. They'll have their arms around them on the subway, and nobody really cares. They're becoming conditioned and to realize that we are just part of society. So
yeah, and a lot of people credit specifically the show Will and Grace with that.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that it deserves that credit?
Yes, I do. Yeah, and shows like that, Ellen. Other shows that, well, you probably didn't know she actually had a sitcom where she was the first person to come out publicly on national television. She had a sitcom, and it was people like that paved the way for, and basically taught the American society that it does exist in our country. So
right, yeah. And do you think, I mean, is there anything about the portrayal of gay Americans on TV that you get frustrated with, or?
Oh yeah.
Like what?
Well, they're working on it. They're getting better, and it will continue to improve. It'll continue to get better. But for a while, it was the stereotypical, over the top, flamboyant.
Yeah.
And now it seems to have switched over to where everybody that's portrayed as gay on television have a 32-inch waist, they're in their 20s, and they live at the gym. With a six-pack ab. And that is what a gay man is. Because it's very Hollywood mentality. That you have to be absolutely perfect and chiseled and all of this, and it's all about body image, and it's all about how pretty you are and all of that. And I'm really getting tired of that. I would like some real gay people to portray gay people as it is in the real world.
Yeah. And do you find, because you mentioned how we're all on this sort of journey of, accepting other people and stuff. Do you find, were there any sort of bigotries or prejudices you had towards any group of people that you've noticed over your life you've learned to overcome those that you may have had?
Bigotries?
Or prejudices about people, or sort of fears of other people, of certain groups of people?
Well, yeah, actually. To be quite honest, even like African American, for example, I grew up in the cornfields of Indiana, quite literally. I grew up in the countryside in rural America in the 60s and 70s. I did not see or even meet an African American until I moved to New York, I don't think. And in my 20s. And now, of course, I've educated myself or learned, but I grew up with a negative view of their community until I actually lived with them, and I found out that we're all just Americans. But there are, not just with African community, but from everywhere around the world, people have moved, especially here in New York. People have moved from every country around the world, countries I've never even heard of.
Yeah.
They have communities here, and they bring their culture with them, and they bring their way of life, and they bring all of that. So a lot of times they do isolate themselves, or they do have these cultures or characteristics within their group that is that's just been an observation of mine. And that a lot of time it's much easier to look at the differences that people have, which cause a conflict, rather than look at the 98% of stuff we have in common. They will focus on the 2 or 3% that we have that's different.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I guess, would you say that, because right now, Donald Trump is, and I don't mean to talk about him too much.
No, you
say
whatever you want.
But he was in his, he said a bunch of different and contradictory things about everything, including about LGBT rights. And he said, in his convention speech, he said we have to defend them from, jihadism and things like this. And it makes me proud that the Republicans are now including in their platform, a clause, defending LGBT rights. Do you think he has a point there that that we need to do more to stand up for an assault on LGBTQ rights by jihadists or terrorists, things like that? I mean, do you have sympathy for what he's saying there?
Okay, I haven't really paid that close of attention what the man comes out of the man's mouth, because by the afternoon it's completely different.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, he's saying that jihadists have something against that they're also a threat to. I don't know how he thinks that the jihadists are just going to completely destroy the United States, and including the LGBT community.
Right.
I don't know what he is planning on doing, but all I know is his running mate is dead set against the LGBT community, and I can't believe a word that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. I've lived here in New York for over 30 years. I've had to deal with him and his creations all over town. Well, they're not even creations, really, but we've had to deal with him and his lies and his bullshit and his bullying and all of that. It's new for the rest of the country. They see it more as watching him on a reality show and like pulling the lever, thinking it's they're voting for like their American Idol or something. This is for the presidency of the United States of America, folks.
Yeah.
But so his stance on LGBT rights, I really have no idea. I don't trust him. I don't believe him.
Yeah.
He held up the flag the other day, upside down, for the LGBT community. So that kind of was symbolic to me that he knows nothing about us or cares about us.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure he does know friends or have people that is LGBTQ, but he's not really going to go out of his way to help us. He never has, and I'm not expecting him to again.
Yeah. And you mentioned how you lived in New York and you worked in real estate. And so you say that you've seen Donald Trump before the rest of America has, and you've had to deal with him earlier. I mean, what was that like, dealing with his companies here?
Well, I never really dealt closely with his companies. We did a little here and a little there because I didn't like them. He was... Basically, he catered only to the rich. That was his whole thing. And that's what kind of I kept my distance from him and his organization for that reason. Because, again, what about the other, 99% of the population? Right. That he didn't care about, and in my opinion, still doesn't. He's more concerned with the 1%. He has no way of identifying or even any point of reference to the 99%ers.
Yeah.
He has always been a 1%er and always catered to the 1%. And he is trying to build up his army of 99%ers who don't even realize that they can't even afford to stay at his place.
Right. That's a good point. That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, definitely. And why do you think, you're from Indiana, why do you think, I don't know actually if Indiana, who it's going to vote for, it's all very up in the air. I think it is leaning towards Trump, though.
Usually they're very Republican, yeah.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I know a lot of my friends who normally would be Republican are like, no way.
Oh, really?
So it could be a battleground. It could surprise us.
Yeah. And why, do you know any Trump supporters?
And yeah.
And what do you think is the core of his appeal to them?
Well, there are layers to that. So stop me if we need to stop, because I could go on for a while. But one is my brother, for example, is a Trump supporter, which again, that's fine. One of the driving forces with him, anyway, and a lot of people that I know out there, for whatever reason, they hate Hillary Clinton. They just hate her. And they will vote for a dog before they would vote for her, and they basically are.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.